Hey, everybody out there in Cryptid Land. Me and my buddy Dirty over there have a really great guest tonight. His name is Tom Cantrell. He is a freaking legend, a myth, the man out in the Bigfoot world. He's written a lot of books, and the man is smart as a whip. And I'm telling you, he's going to teach us some stuff tonight. So, with no further, I don't know what they say. No further ado, I think is what they say.
There you
Here
go.
he is,
There you
Mr.
go.
Tom Cantrell. What an honor to talk to you, sir.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I've seen your show a lot, and I just never had an opportunity to be on it before.
Well,
Uh,
cool.
it's cool. It's great.
Yeah, I tried to do something a little different. You know, I know you're strictly well, I don't. Would you consider yourself a researcher?
No, not at this point. No,
Okay.
I've been with them for so many years that they're family to me.
Yeah.
And see, I started this in 1958, and it's what 67 years, something like that. The summer. And so, yeah, I've been around it a while, and I've gotten to watch the birth of twins, sitting with 18 male Sasquatch, watching the birth of twins, and got to partake in a funeral one time up in Alaska,
Oh
and
wow.
so yeah, it's their family to me, uh,
That's
very
that's
much so.
that's pretty amazing.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
you so the birth. Can I ask you about what time of year did that happen? That's something that's always
January 15th, 2015.
January 15th. Wow.
Hmm.
And
They they
go ahead.
have their children in January usually,
Okay. Well,
and they have them about 6 to 7 years apart,
oh
and
wow.
they do that to maintain their population low.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
because they
so
don't want to stay hidden. You got to keep your population under control, and that's what they do. That's part of how they do it. Is to uh, spread them out 7 years, 6, 7 years apart. Uh, I saw the twins again in September of 23, and they were 9 years old. Well, yeah, they were going on 9 years old. And she had a youngster, a baby that was born uh, that was just 6 years old. So, that, pardon me, was just 3 years old. So they were 6 years apart. And that's pretty common. That's pretty common. But I knew the mother from the time she was a teenager. It was in BC, Canada, in our research area where Brian and Sue and I spent 5 years researching glyphs and structures. When we started in 2012, nobody was talking about glyphs. Nobody knew what they were. Actually, I coined the word for what I was seeing uh, because they were like the glyphs found on the walls in Egypt and such like that. But at one time I had like 24,000 photographs of glyphs. Uh, I lost a drive one time, had 19,000 pictures on it.
holy cow. Oh, I bet that broke your heart.
Not really, because Brian had them backed up.
Okay. Well,
Okay,
that's good.
well, one of us had, the other one had.
That's
But
good.
I will tell you some strange things that happened during that. Uh, find a glyph, very special to us, and have the picture and have it disappear out of our camera.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah. One of them he sent to me. I had it on my computer. Disappeared off his camera, disappeared off my computer.
Oh, wow. Do you remember which one it was?
Yeah, I remember the glyph very good, and I thought it was something that more than just a glyph when we found it and when he photographed it, and evidently it was because we found some really, I mean, some fantastic stuff. Uh, stuff. There was one we were asked to disassemble because the people had moved in very close to it. And what it was a an altar, and it was uh, oh, pardon me, I'm old and the
Oh, you're
words
fine.
skip out of my
Yeah.
mind. It was an asterisk that was tied in the middle. It was a split maple width, split down the middle, and then was wrapped and tied. I still have that width. I kept it. We got rid of everything else, but it was an asterisk. The elements were about 12 to 15 feet long, and three pieces, three sticks. Right across the middle of them was a set of tracks, 15 inches long. Okay. In that area, I don't know if it's everywhere in the country, but in that area, they use a lot of sword fern with their structures. That's one way you know right away if it's their structures, because the ground will be covered inside the structure with sword fern that are picked, not cut. And I'll tell you how. I don't know if you know sword fern very well,
Not really.
but okay, they're just a single leaf fern,
Mm-hmm.
and you can imagine how tough that stem has to be to hold up a 3 foot high leaf.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I asked a friend of mine, Wayne, one time, we were talking about that, and I said, "Stop your car here. I want to show you something." And he got out, and I says, "Pick me one of those sword ferns." And he went over, trying to pull it. He can't do it. You just cannot pick one. He was going to get out his knife. I said, "No, no, pick it." "I can't do it." I said, "There's my point. You'll find those everywhere where they make their structures, picked, not cut."
Wow.
So
Wow.
that tells me right then who did it. Where they
Yeah.
come from. Plus, in this park where we were, it was a major provincial park in BC, and the rangers there, the people that worked there, got to talking about them. They knew what was going on. After they knew what we were doing too when we were doing this research, and they'd come down and talk to us to see what we were finding. And they knew who were there, and they said in the park everything's supposed to remain natural, right? And they'd come in and here'd be this structure built up with all the dead logs laying around, and they'd tear it down. Come back next morning, it was built back up again. It didn't take very long at that. We just forgot it and left it alone.
Yeah. Oh man.
And yeah, and so they knew what was there, and they just loved the research we were doing. Uh, be able to show them the footprints and such, and yeah, it was such a beautiful place for that because it had been logged in the 30s, and then it, like all of Canada, or southern Canada anyway, it grew heavy timber back so densely that there was no underbrush, and it was just like a carpet of moss on the ground. So their glyphs just showed up beautifully. You could see them from 50 yards away, and so it just it like I said, we spent 5 years chronicling that. We wrote a book on it uh, called Woods Works, and wrote it together. And Sue, who is now Brian's wife, she was so much help to us. Brian and I would find something, we'd get all excited about it, and Sue would come up and, "Oh yes, I know they make these things like this, but what makes you think they made this one?" Okay. So then we'd have to go back and start looking for evidence.
Yeah.
So I call her our resident skeptic.
Well, you know what? It's always good to have a skeptic around because it
It
keeps you
is. It
honest.
is. They keep you straight.
Yeah, keeps you
And
honest.
yeah, and just like that, make us prove whether it is or it isn't. Of those 24,000 uh, glyphs, the only ones I've ever shown people, I'm 99% plus sure they're Sasquatch made. Okay, and that's probably 200 out of that 24,000.
Oh wow. Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
The others, I'm somewhere between 50 and 90%
Yeah.
sure, but it's not good enough. I have to be almost perfectly sure before. As you say, I've been doing this a long time, and to be caught out in one misstatement like that could ruin a lifetime's reputation.
Correct.
And so I have to be very, very careful of that. Very, very careful to make sure that what I say is the truth all the time. And it's not hard to do. Just tell what it is. Treat everybody with respect and just tell what it is. It's not hard at all.
So
So I get asked so often, how do I see Sasquatch? Treat him with respect. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
and of the glyphs that you're 99% positive a
Mm-hmm.
Sasquatch made them, what parts about those particular ones made you so sure?
That footprint across the middle of them.
That would do
Okay,
it.
that would do it. Okay, that's one. The use of pick
the
sword
the
ferns.
sword ferns.
That's another one. But tracks are the main thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and if it's a 15-inch track, and believe me, I know what to check for to tell a track from a fake track, and there are giveaways to it. One easy one, quick one. When we walk, our foot hits the ground with a heavy heel strike,
Correct.
and then we come forward on our foot. When they walk with what's called a compliant gait, and their leg swings out, around, comes down flat, and then as they step forward, the mid-tarsal breaks. Let me turn my hand. I can't do it, I guess. But when that breaks, then the middle will break. So the heavy part is now on the front part of the foot. So in us, the deepest part of the track will be the heel. In them, the deepest part of the track will be the front of the track.
There you go. And that's
And
probably a good way to
it's a good way to,
differentiate
to
between
debunk
hoaxes
tracks. Yeah, yeah,
too, I would think.
yeah. It is. You can do all sorts of things with the toes too, because their toes are. I've never seen shoes. They're open and free, and they're almost prehensile. And some of them I swear they are. Also, they love to move on all fours. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but they do it very quickly, very fast on all fours. And yeah, so
I've heard a lot of encounters about them being on all fours, and sometimes I've
sure,
heard about the spider crawl, which really
yep, and they
freaks me
can
out.
fly doing that. I mean,
That's what I
they don't
heard.
waste any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're trying to get away, they're gone. Yeah,
So
and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, that's all right. I've just
So
been thinking there.
how many creature or well I don't know that I want to call them a creature.
They're
Uh,
people.
Big people. How many big
Mm-hmm.
people do you think you've seen over your 67 years of doing this?
100 or better.
Oh my gosh. Man,
Yeah.
oh man.
There
Ha-
were like I said, there were 18 males and 2 females when the twins were born. Right there, the funeral in Alaska, there were about the same number there, but there were more females there too, males and females for the funeral.
So the funeral, you piqued my curiosity because I don't think I've heard anybody talk about a funeral. Maybe I heard you talk about it on a different show,
I
but
don't I don't talk about it much because it was so sacred.
okay.
Uh,
Well, if you
but
don't want
but
to
yeah,
talk,
it. I was invited,
yeah.
specifically invited to be there. I was in Alaska fishing, and I got tired of fishing. I mean, you know, how long does it take to catch six salmon when they're coming in banging in the legs? When you
Yeah.
and so I got tired of fishing, and I took the rig and just went for a ride up in the mountains. I found an old logging clear cut and I was tracking stalking a bear is what it was. It was big old black bear feeding there, and I decided to see how close I could get to it. And I figured 30 feet was close enough.
I would say.
And he left, and a big old boar. He was a big boar for a black bear too. And as I was sitting there on the stump, one came out, and I started talking to him. I always do that. But every time I see one, that's the first thing I do. Hi there, how are you? You know, it's good to see you today. I came to see just to see you. I'm glad you're here. You know, just like I'd talk to you.
Yeah.
And you'd be amazed at how when they respect you, when they know, because it seems like what one of them knows, they all know. You know, it's a type of situation. And now this didn't happen for the first 35, 40, 45, 50 years of this, okay? It's only been in the last 10 to 15 years that I could do this. But they came out and they actually told me there was a funeral to be held in this area. Did I want to stay for it? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's a yes.
Is the Pope Catholic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how I was invited, and that's why I stayed and watched it. I just sat back and I was in awe, totally in awe. But that was long before the birth of the twins. That was back when I was still on my own. See, and what got me started was the Jerry Crew incident. And my dad hit the newspaper, and it was in an area that we knew. We'd hunted there. And we had friends that lived in that area. And it was about 350 miles from where we lived. And he says, "What do you think of this?" And he handed me the newspaper. He was always doing that. Something would come up like that. He would always give me the paper. What do you think of this? You know, and it's still my curiosity, you know, is what he ended up doing. And I was, sophomore in high school at the time, I think. And I read that, and, you know, and I just said, this sounds too good to be true, actually. Then, so when I started researching it, then I found Dr. Sanderson, Ivan T. Sanderson, working on it. And I got to read his words on it. And he published an article in True Magazine and then again in Argosy Magazine on it. And he went into the nuts and bolts on it. And he was flat convinced they were there. And this was, I don't know if you know the gentleman, but he was the foremost paleontologist in the world at the time.
Oh, wow.
He had written 13 books on mammals of the world that were the standard teaching books for mammal. I'm not even going to try that word, for teaching about mammals.
Mammalians?
Mammalians. Yeah, there we go. For mammalian teaching in universities around the world. So the man was well regarded and knew what he was talking about. And that he changed my mind. Yeah, that's real. And then of course right after that were the Tom Slick expeditions in the same area that brought in people like Bob Titmus, John Green, Rene DeHinden, and then unfortunately Peter Byrne, which ran the Canadians out. And then right after that, 5 years after that, the Patterson Gimlin film. Okay, all in the same area. And speaking of which, 2014, we had a gathering there, and we had 5 face-to-face sightings in camp.
Oh, man.
And we had 2 more on the road, 20 feet apart. Okay, and yeah, just you can read about that on my website. I've got articles there on those, and they're in my books too. But we're going back in August. We're taking a crew and going back, and it'll probably be my last outing of the type. But I've got a friend that's got a 35-foot trailer that we're going to try to get in there because it's in the wilderness area at the end of the road. And yeah.
Do a little glamping in a
Yeah, we're
camper
going to do
instead
it.
of a tent?
Well, I can't sleep on the ground
I don't
anymore.
blame you. I can't either.
If I got on the ground, it'd take heavy equipment to get me back up.
Might have to call Jerry Crew again.
Yeah, yeah. And so we're going back there in this August for a week, and we were there for 2 weeks last time. It was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Uh,
That sounds amazing.
oh yeah, yeah, and but that's just part of it. We've lived with them, and we've gone back to see him. Like I said, I went back. Raja Say, the young female that was the mother of the twins, she's the daughter of the clan leader in that area. And he was a big boy. He's 12 foot tall and white. Okay. And Raj looked like, she looked like she'd been to the beauty shop the way her hair was cut.
Huh.
And yeah, she was very unique. It's the only one I've ever seen that had blue eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of one with blue eyes before till you just said that. Wow.
That's the only one I've ever seen. Other people have been telling me about when I say that, they say, so and so saw one. I'd get with them. Yeah, they saw one. So it happens. It's just not common. And
so quick question. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Not
So
at all.
when you said they invited you to the funeral now and they talked to you, was it verbally or was it kind of like the Mindspeak?
That was Mindspeak. That came right directly into my mind.
I believe in Mindspeak because I've heard it so much.
Well, there's still people that can do it. And that was one of the first things that my teacher taught me. We have no powers that you did not at one time have. The difference is, about 35,000 years ago, you moved indoors. You quit adapting to your environment and started adapting your environment to you.
Yep.
And we did.
Yep.
Now we're sitting across the campfire in the teepee or in the cave and talking right there. We're not talking ridgetop to ridgetop anymore, so we don't need it.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then what happens in the human body if you don't use it?
You lose it.
You lose it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we do. There are still vestiges of it. How many people can do that? I know several that are capable of it. I get a little bit of it. But one of their major forms of communication isn't word usage, it's thought placement. All of a sudden you get an idea to do something you've never done before. Okay?
Something.
You ever had that happen?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Guess where it came from?
Yeah.
Somebody put it there.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of like.
I had.
Go ahead.
Cliff Barrickman. I love the guy. He's a nice, great guy, but he's got a totally skewed view of what he's dealing with. He's a science teacher.
100%.
Okay, and he can't look any other direction than that. He says, Mindspeak is merely self-talk and wishful thinking. I says, Cliff, one time I left my friend's house nearby town, headed back home. It was 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and it was pouring. It was flat, and in Washington, it can rain. And this road is a long, straight stretch. And all of a sudden, I see that in my truck, I'm doing 50, 55 maybe. And because it's slick out, that rain is slick on concrete highway. And all of a sudden, I see this set of headlights coming up behind me way back there, and they had to be doing 80, 85 mile an hour. So when they got there, I just pulled over and let them go by and started back on the road. And this voice says, slow down, they're not going to make the curve. Right? That road turned about 50 degrees to line up with the freeway right there with I-5. And the last thing I wanted to do, what it was 4 kids that had a basketball game in the other town. It was a neighboring town. They were on their way back home, and in a pickup. And then it says, "Slow down. They're not going to make the curve." Do you think I wanted to go around that curve and see what I was going to find? You know, fortunately, they just hit the infield on the ramp onto the
Oh,
freeway and
wow.
spun out. They
Oh,
didn't even roll. They were some shook out,
yeah.
and they couldn't get out of it because it was raining so hard and it was so wet. So I just said, I'll call you a record from the. That was before the days of cell phones.
Yeah.
I'll call you a record from the store across the street here, and did. And I says, now tell me where the wishful thinking was in that. You know,
Yeah.
where was the self-talk in that? You know, the
Yeah.
last thing I wanted to do was see what I knew I was going to see.
Well, I respect the heck out of Cliff Barrington. I really
I
do.
do too. I do too.
But
He's done great work.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
But the one thing that kind of drives me a little bit about him is he's got such a closed mind on the subject on certain areas because I mean, honestly, yes, he knows a lot,
Right,
but he's got no way of knowing that he knows everything.
right.
So
And another one in that same uh, field is Jeff Meldrum.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I there again. I have more fun with him. Uh, uh, it was after the Sasquatch Summit a couple of years ago. I went up to him afterwards. I said, "Well, Jeff, we maintained our record. We disagreed with 60% of what one of the other says, and shake hands, go home friends." You know, I said, you could disagree without being disagreeable.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
and plus the fact I've never listened to the man that I didn't learn something. You know, you don't learn something from people who agree with you 100%. You learn from the people that have a different idea,
Yeah.
and you test that idea. Okay. And he says, yeah, he says, I know. He says, isn't this strange? He says, I'm sitting there, I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, but you're so darned articulate and you make your point so well. I find my head going up and down. I says, Jeff, listen to your head.
Yeah. That's,
But look at the situation he's in. I mean, his cohorts at his university are after his tenure all the time.
yeah.
So he has to have absolute rock solid evidence before he can say anything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So he has to be very, very careful. And I don't, but like I say, he's never given a talk that I didn't learn something.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
he's one of my favorites
Yeah,
too, and I
yeah.
love listening to these guys. I don't always agree with everything they say, but
You don't have to.
yeah, exactly. But
Hmm.
I leave my mind open to the conversation,
Hmm.
and I learn things, and some things I might think a little differently, but I still take their idea
Hmm.
that way I can bounce it off of my
Hmm.
idea, and granted, until we actually get one, and I don't know. So, and that's another good question. Um, I know people talk about, you have to have a body before we can
Why?
prove them.
Why?
I am the same. I think we have enough evidence, you know,
Even if we don't, what's it going to do?
nothing.
If you had absolutely 100% rock solid proof, what's it going to do?
Yeah. Well, what's it going to do? Not much of
The
anything.
worst thing you can ever possibly happen is for the government to have to take ownership. I mean, look at our government's history with indigenous peoples.
Correct. Yeah. So,
Okay. Milton Friedman, economist for like 5 presidents, he said, if you put our government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years, there'd be a worldwide shortage of sand. And it's absolutely the truth.
yeah, you're right.
The worst, what are you going to do to protect it? They don't need protection. We need protection from
They
ourselves.
need, yeah,
You know, all they need to be is left alone.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
and honestly, I'm fine with them not being officially discovered
Right. Right.
because I love the mystery anyway. I mean, granted, do I wish I knew more? Yeah, but I don't want to see one captive or pressured or anything
Or
else to get
killed.
that information
Or killed.
or killed. Yeah.
That just happened. That happened. Okay. Part of the. I don't know if you know. Yeah. What's her name? Anatomist down in Texas. She did the not anatomist,
Did
geneticist.
are you talking about Melba Ketchum?
Melba Ketchum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. One of the major samples that Melba had, and they called it the slab or the steak, came from a person in California. That person had been feeding a mother and child for 2 years and then murdered them.
What?
Okay. Yeah. That's where that slab came from. That's why she could do three full genomes, full tests, full runs. Now, number one, stop and think. She didn't do that in her basement. That was done by 21 different major universities and test labs across the nation, from University of North Carolina to USC in California. Okay. All she did was compile the results. Okay. Now, that piece of meat, the person who did that had some friends who saw what was coming. DNA, mitochondrial DNA, pure human.
Yep.
Okay, that's the mother side, mother, grandmother, great grandmother, matrilineal side. Okay, pure human. The nuclear DNA had non-human markers in it. Now, what these people saw was this was going to be declared a person. And if it was declared a person, then the person who murdered these two was going to be up on charges.
Yeah.
So what they did is they went back to the same spot. They killed a bear and let it decay. Then they had this big gathering of people to come in and get the DNA evidence from the Sasquatch that was shot there. Well, it came out bear. Now I wonder why.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, that's where all the controversy came from.
Wow.
That's where every bit of controversy came from, was that particular move right there.
Okay, because I was wondering, because at first it really seemed like everything was coming together, and then it all fell
Mhm.
apart at the end.
Yeah, you got to remember this. I don't like Melba as a person. She hurt some good friends of mine very badly, but I can't argue with her science at
Okay.
all.
Yeah.
Okay, as a person, no, I'm not going to have anything to do with her, even though I was part of this thing at the time. But she did. She really hurt some good, very good friends, and so that's that. But the DNA, it was dead on.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, oh man.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's. I don't think I've heard about that. I mean, obviously.
Very few people know that one.
Well, I'm glad I'm part of the few now.
Hmm.
So since
Yeah.
we're kind of on a little bit of subject of off the charts, I've got to ask you. I don't know that I've heard you ever talk about this, but have you ever experienced any of the orbs or lights?
I'm just getting into those. I helped Penny Rummel write her book and do her book, and I've been with her when she showed them to me. Uh, what they are, I have no idea,
Do you think they
but they
have
are
any?
fascinating.
Do you think they have any connection to Sasquatch?
The Indians think so. The Indian
I've
people
heard
think so.
that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I think they do. I really do. This the second um, what the Jill and what's his name's Remensnyder and Eichenberger, their second video, they have a gentleman and a younger man. They're talking about watching a Sasquatch become an orb, and
I've
it's
heard about that.
fascinating. Yeah.
I've heard about
So,
that.
yeah.
So it's a video where you can actually see
Yeah.
it.
Well, no, they talk about it and
Oh,
they do
okay.
a reenactment of it. They show how it happened, where it was,
Okay.
and everything. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Okay.
If you haven't seen that, get a hold of that and watch it.
Oh, I definitely will.
Yeah,
So
it's beyond unbelievable. But look at Penny's work. I mean, she goes out in the evening in her backyard and just photographs and watches them. And we were together in a motel room in Yakima for a conference, and she was showing them to me on the wall, and yeah, then watching them going. And that's the first time I've seen them with my bare eyes.
wow.
And,
I've seen one,
mm-hmm.
and it was actually at the spot that I had my experience at, or my encounter,
Mm-hmm.
and I never put two and two together, because at that point in time I hadn't heard about the connection. But
Mm-hmm.
and I always, because to me it was always just a mystery what I saw. It was like a light that didn't really emit
Sure.
light, and
Mm-hmm.
it followed me, and it didn't make any sound. And then when I started hearing about that, I'm like, wait a minute, that's the same damn
Yep.
spot. I don't know that it had anything to do with it, but
Mm-hmm.
makes you think.
Yep. Another thing that's been blowing my mind here, I don't remember when it was, Barb Shoop. I think it was last winter. Barb, she's close.
I've
Maybe
got
in
her
mind.
up for an interview
Oh,
soon.
you'll love that. You'll love it. Barb is one of the greatest people in the world. She's my neighbor. We've worked together for several years,
Ah, cool.
and she has videos of. I probably shouldn't say that since you're going to be interviewing her, but she has videos of fairies.